you'll never you'll never fail if you don't quit. Just keep going. And that's all I can say before we go is you're the only one. You get to decide when it's time to quit. You get to decide when it's time to be done. So just, whenever that goes, if anybody's out there listening, just know that you are the one that's in charge, not the world, not someone else. So
Welcome to The Career Flipper, a weekly podcast featuring career change stories from people all around the world, from all walks of life, about how they get from point A to point B and all the twists and turns in between. I'm Jenny Dempsey, your career flipping host. After more than a decade working in customer service and experience leadership at tech startups, as well as teaching 2 Udemy customer service training courses, speaking at business conferences, and running a global customer service mentorship program, I found myself laid off in 2022 from my stable corporate job. And despite my years of experience, I couldn't find a new job, and I really started to question my worth. What am I supposed to do now? A friend then gave me an old junky table. I saw potential. I binged YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram videos to learn how to fix it up and found joy in giving something unwanted a brand new chance at life, which really resonated with me after getting laid off and feeling unwanted myself. This led me to start my furniture makeover and restoration business, San Diego Furniture Flipper, where I rescue and restore good furniture to keep it out of the landfill. Alongside that, I host this show, speak at events, do customer service consulting, and offer one-on-one career change coaching sessions. Despite all this wonderful stuff, though, I was feeling alone and kind of delusional about my new path. I mean, who really goes from the corporate tech stable world to covered in paint and sawdust in their garage, wondering if they're going to be able to sell their piece of furniture on Facebook Marketplace? So I started to reach out to a few people that I knew who've also done some career changes, and hearing their stories motivated me, and it made me realize that it's okay to change direction at any point in life. And I realized there are way more people out there who flip their careers more than I've ever imagined. And that's why I started this podcast. It came to me in a dream to share these incredible stories and offer support to anyone considering, having already been through, or currently going through a career flip. I hope each episode brings you something that you can take away and use in your own life. New episodes drop every Thursday, and I've got some bonus episodes once a month sprinkled in on Tuesdays, just like this one that you're about to dive into. I like to call these bonus episodes cocoon episodes because they capture our guests right in the midst of their career metamorphosis. There's so much we can learn from their experiences, the highs, the lows, and everything in between, to feel a little less alone on our own paths. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever chased and achieved a childhood dream only to discover it's just one chapter in the bigger story of your life? In today's episode, you'll meet Zach Dando from Denver, Colorado. He shares his career journey from the thrill of professional baseball to coaching 350 games, turning pro in golf, ranching with horses, and now making music that's racked up over 500,000 streams on Spotify. Zach talks about the highs and lows of each transition, the hurdles he's overcome, and the lessons he's learned along the way. He also opens up about the crucial support he's received from his wonderful, beautiful wife, Gabi, and the deep satisfaction he gets from helping others. Let's get into the episode now. Hello, Zach. It's awesome to have you here on the Career Flipper. Thanks for making the time.
yeah, how we doing? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name's Zach Dando. Right now, I live out in Elizabeth, Colorado. Currently, I am a ranch hand for my wife and working on my music career. It feels awesome just being here to, just share some of that stuff with you. And I know I got a lot of twists and turns on this particular episode, so I'm excited to just be here. But yeah, we're out in Colorado, holding it down right now. Work all day in the morning, and then just get right to the career at noon. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you guys have a big property, a lot of beautiful horses, and you keep everything looking amazing and running like clockwork. Gabby is, your wife is exceptional and does amazing work. You can tell that you guys put in a lot to keep everything functioning for those beautiful creatures. So, you know, let's get into it. Zach, tell about your career flips. Tell us the stories that led you through your journey?
Yeah, my goodness. So I guess I'll probably go back to just right around high school. I was playing baseball just like everybody else. I was, put my whole life into it. So I was lucky enough to letter as a freshman and played 4 years of varsity baseball, won a couple state championships, had a lot of success. And because of that, I was able to play baseball in college and went to a junior college and didn't have the money to go to a big time D1. So I had to take a downgrade and went the community college route, went down to central Arizona. So you can imagine how warm that was. It was right in between Phoenix and Tucson. So in the middle of nowhere, if anyone's familiar with that spot. But then that's just when I got to work. I was on scholarship for baseball, and we happened to be one of the best teams in the country. I was able to be, the lead pitcher on that team, and we were able to go all the way to the national championship game, which actually is randomly back here in Colorado, which is crazy for the whole United States. So I was able to be the number one pitcher on the number one team. And unfortunately, we lost in the national championship game on a walk-off home run in the 10th. So it was awesome. I mean, I wasn't, I didn't give up the home run, but it still felt just like as big a loss as any I'd felt in my life. And it was so bittersweet because 2 days later, the draft happened. So I wasn't sure where I was going to go to school if I wanted to go, but I got the call from the Astros and they said, "Do you want to come play professional baseball?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So from that season, I just went right into, I went down to Florida pretty much to check in the spring training facility. And just started my baseball career pretty much immediately 2 days after the national championship. So not much time to reflect or come down from that, and had to go right back into it. And, that's just when I, wasn't quite sure what it looked like to be a professional baseball player. So it took me, a couple months to get used to the grind. And, in college, you play a few times a week, here and there, and I mean, it seems like a lot when you're a college athlete, but nothing compared to what the grind is at that level. So, after that year, I just came home and I was like, whoa, I had a whole off season, which I'd never had before, so no more school, no more anything. So once November came around, it was really just, learn how to work like a professional. And that was really the toughest part because, I always started thinking that it was just about effort, right? Like I just wanted to lift and wanted to work out and everything was so intense. And so, luckily I was young enough to do it like that at the time. I wasn't getting tired or anything. But, those are the things that you learn throughout the course of your career is how to make those adjustments to where everybody, when they start a new job, right, is always so excited about, the task at hand. So you want to show who you can be and you want to show what kind of teammate or what kind of, leader you are on the team, whatever your team may be. Right. So, really just was grinding for the sake of grinding. And, the good news is I was prepared because of that. Right. A little bit burnt out, but wasn't really able to focus on the specialization that was required for what my job was going to be as a specific relief pitcher. So my whole career, I was a starting pitcher, which, means you throw 200 pitches, not that many, 100 pitches a game all the time, every fifth day. You get in a good routine. And when I got drafted, they wanted me as a relief pitcher. So that was a huge adjustment going from I have 5 days to prepare for my start to every other night I could be up at any given time, regardless of the situation, depending on who's batting. So it was really a big adjustment in my routines. All of my routines had to now go from all week to prep to every single day had to be a little bit of prep for the next outing and so on and so forth. So, having to make that adjustment as a youngster was really tough for me. But, I was able to do it just because of the natural programming that the Astros provided for us. So, so I was able to make an impact in certain ways that I wasn't, basically if you throw less pitches, you're going to get to play more. So as opposed to, you want to throw all game, all day, all the time. Now it was, how can I get in the game more often? How can I get in there when my team needs me every second day, every third day, every day sometimes if they needed you. So it was just, really a lot of adjusting in a very, very, very talented system. And then I met our mutual friend, Joe Musgrove, and he really just helped push me, and we helped push each other to this place that was like, okay, we're going to do this focus, we're going to do this right, and we're going to work our tails off no matter what. At the time we weren't getting the call up. That's when you go to the next level in baseball. And I think there was 5 levels in front of us, and we were just working every day trying to get called up, and nothing was happening, but we pretty much just hypnotized ourselves into competing against each other and, making that work out okay. And just going along that daily grind with each other and working back and forth was what really kind of helped push me through. So, and then just like anything else, I played 3 or 4 years with the Astros. And then that one day comes where, you get let go. So at the time, it was really tough because Gabi was 7 months pregnant in spring training, and we lost all of our insurance, and we were in a different hospital because we had MiLB insurance, and we had great hookups, and we're excited to have the baby. And then we got home, and we had to go right on to Medicare, Medicaid, whatever one it is. I think Medicaid, and now our insurance was nothing, and we had to find a new hospital, and life was hitting us fast. And at the time, I was only 23, so it was really. I don't know, it just felt like such a pinpoint of a time that it was just like so magnified, everything seemed to quote unquote, go to crap, and that was the time that I really had to make the decision. Okay, what am I going to do now? Who am I without baseball? And, it felt like after putting my whole entire life and, all the relationships and all the times you've played catch with your dad and, like all those emotions. Now it felt like a breakup. It felt like my heart was ripped out because it was so much more than a job. It was, it's like, wow, one day I'm playing baseball feeling great. The next day, nobody wants me anymore. I can't even feel the wind on my face. I was just so numb for probably, bless Gabi's heart, for probably 4 or 5 months. It was just, I didn't care what I ate. I didn't care about anything. It was just, now we have a baby, time to get everything right, time to be a dad, time to figure this out. And, we didn't have baseball as our main source of income. So it was just a total, what are we going to do? And we sat down and looked at each other. If it wasn't for my incredible wife, my amazing teammate, the leader of our family as well, she looked right at me and she was like, well, you can either coach, I can go back to work, I can do Pilates, I'm a horse person, I can, and that was when it was like, okay, let's figure this out.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like it was really tied to your identity, and then not having that job anymore and really asking the question of like, who am I without that? Plus having another life to care for. And you and Gabi are just figuring it out super quick because you have to. A baby is on the way. It sounds like such a pivotal moment in your life. So from there, what do you do next?
Yeah. I'll never forget, just sitting there. I remember one time, we were brand new parents too. Like we had no idea what we were doing. We had kids first out of all of our friend group. So we didn't really have a support system. So it was, I'll never forget one day it was like -4 degrees. I think Zeke was 3 months old and Gabi had to run to the store and somehow we were like out of milk. Like we were out of she was breastfeeding and like, somehow there was no milk around for like probably 3 hours. And I just remember being like, everything was going to be okay. But at the time I was just this pathetic creature, a dad, a baby needs a mom. And I was just a dad without milk. And my son was just like, I could use anything but you right now. And I just remember there sitting, thinking, being like, I have nothing anymore. I have nothing to give. I'm this athletic, strong, healthy guy. And I am just worthless in this moment. And I just remember that was the time that it was just like hit me the hardest. And it was golly, I just felt like I had worked at least hard enough to at least provide something. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than when you don't have anything in the account whatsoever and you start to slip into that mind of, I'm a very spiritual person. Sometimes after payday, when all the money's gone and everything's, you're like, is this really what the creator, I'm worth to the creator? -$20 after, it's like, and those are the things that start to slip into your head. And, luckily for me, I had such a good partner in Gabi, and my best friend, and she was just like, it's just temporary, like all this is temporary. Let's put our heads down. You're going to be totally fine. And from then I just dove into coaching. I knew that was my easiest way out of the whole quote unquote, and if anybody's ever coached out there, I was coaching high school. I was like varsity pitching coach. There's just not much money in that. You are just doing it for the future opportunities. But my love was restored when I was able to work with kids, right? Like it's not the money, it's not the bills, it's not all that stuff taken care of. It's like for me, I was so grateful to be a positive, even though I was going through it. I was able to be a positive influence in these kids' life. And being a younger guy that had success in the baseball world, I had a natural little swagger about me on the baseball field. So, I was naturally able to connect with these kids. And that was just what the first thing I ever thought of that was about somebody else doing something. Baseball was always about me doing something and me trying to do this and me having success or me giving up a home run or, me striking someone out, where this was like the first time that I felt something from an outer, an outward person. Someone else was receiving something from me. I could see them grow. The information that I gave them, the stuff that they worked their butts off of, that I knew, it was really coming full circle to like, wow, maybe I don't matter that much. My whole life as a baseball player, like you said, my identity was just me. And now that I had this newfound love for coaching and helping kids get to these hurdles, or, even getting to college, that's pretty special when a kid lists you as a reference and you get a call from a college about a kid that you can't wait to tell them how awesome of a kid they are. So those were the things that really snapped me out of it. And, I would say that one was a segue. Right. That was probably a career segue, not necessarily a flip upside down because I was so comfortable in the field already. But, after a while, it's like I did have to feed my family, and the opportunities that I was hoping for, especially in the certain school district that I was in, weren't coming up. They just weren't presenting themselves. I felt like I was doing all the right stuff and felt like I should have got the call, and I wasn't able to. So as a family in Colorado, rent was going crazy. So we had to adjust. And one day Gabi was, looking at the computer, and she's like, I found an Olympic horse training facility. And she's like, it could possibly be live-in. And I'm like, well, we definitely need to look at that and go through all the stuff. And that was how I initially got to the point where I'm like, okay, so we took that job for Gabi. She career flipped. She went from a Pilates instructor back to her first love of horses and was able to get that job. And we, lived on property in this tiny little place that had no lighting, no anything. It was a pretty nasty little spot, but we had everything that we needed. It was the first time that we were able to get our head above water as a couple, as a team, financially. And it was just so rewarding to go from my wife supporting me in minor league baseball, traveling behind the bus, taking care of Zeke when I wasn't home, going to all these games, doing all this stuff, to now I can be that person. So for a year, everything flipped, and Gabi was the total 100% provider. All of our income came from her and what she was doing with the horses and training them and whatnot. And so I was a stay-at-home mom for that year, essentially. And it was amazing, and I cooked every night, and I had to learn how to cook and had to watch all the YouTube videos of what meals are easy to make in 30 minutes that are still good, and take him to school and get all this, because this was about kindergarten, I guess he was in. So, we were really just at a time where it was like, we finally had some stability, and it wasn't from me whatsoever. So that was such a eye-opening, humbling, but it was so cool to reciprocate all the love that my wife gave me when I was playing minor league ball, to be able to be that person for her, my job was take care of everything, make sure that it's good, do the dishes, make it to where she can wake up, go to work, provide for us, and come home. And, that's really, again, once everything kind of changed for me, it was definitely tough at times to be like, man, I feel, I'm not going to say smart, but I felt educated enough and strong enough and healthy enough to be this big provider, and it just wasn't happening. And at the same time, the universe, the creator, whatever you believe, was going, this is the lesson that you need to learn in this time, though. And for me, I was able to hear that, and really hone in on it and just go, I'm just going to give this up and say, put myself aside and just be that person. And that was the first time that we really were stable and able to confidently look at each other and go, things are okay now, so, and then a couple of years passed of doing that. And I was working at a golf course, just opening in the morning, just doing simple tasks. So I could get back home, I'd drop my son off, go work at the golf course for a few hours. They were really cool, and come back. And through that, I got free golf. So I started picking up golf as a hobby. And of course, within like 10 rounds, I was like, dang, I think I'm pretty good, like, and I remember like on my 10th or 12th round, I broke 80, and that's like a big number for golfers. It's not, when you play a bunch of golf, it's not that big a deal, but it's like the telltale sign. They're like, oh, you're a good golfer, and I'll never forget it because I was just hitting the ball so well, and I randomly broke 80, and I looked in the mirror before I went to work, and I was like, I think I'm going to go home and tell my wife that I'm going to really try to pursue this professionally. And I was like, on the way home, I was like looking at myself in the rearview mirror, like, because the one thing I knew about myself is I was going to go all in, you know what I mean? And we already had all this stability time. There was the amount of time that we created in our schedule that I was able to play golf and, do this. And she looked at me and she was like, oh my gosh, you are crazy. And she's like, but as long as everything's good and, it goes, I'll fully support you. And I know that you can, do it. So I just put my head down and played golf for a year and a half, and really was just working my butt off, because there's like a way to go pro in golf. You have to go to school for X amount of time and get a certification. And you also have to pass a player ability test, which proves that not only do you know the information, but you can apply it and teach it and redo it. And so I told Gabi in 2017, I think it was 2018, that I was like, give me 1 year. I don't want to waste time. And I'm just going to put my head down and play more golf and work my butt off than anybody. And I was able to do that. And I passed the test to go pro in golf, and was actually hoping that the golf course that I worked at was going to recognize that as something of special. You would think that, with my background and just being a guy that never asked for help from anybody and was able to, basically pass half of the test to go pro, I was hoping that they would help me out with the school part. And they were just like, no. So I put all this time and energy into it, and I wasn't able to get that aid that I needed. And so because of that, I went back into coaching. And then, my heart was broken a little bit again, but not as much as baseball. It definitely wasn't like, the rug swept out from underneath me. It was just more like, dang, did I really just waste a year of time? But it was such a high because I passed the test, and I was, in everybody else's eyes, it was so cool and so fresh and so new. And then in my heart, I still wasn't able to get the opportunities that I needed to get to that next level. And so that forced me to go back into coaching. And then once again, it was so cool because all the time in golf, I was focusing on myself again. I was just so focused on Zach getting better. And I learned so much about myself that's how my brain works, that I feel that I feel better when I get better. And that, once again, was still an empty feeling at the end of the day. When I went back to coaching, it still brought it back to those around you. I want to see someone else do better. I want to see someone else do this. And it was always this constant ego check. And once I got into coaching, it just went away. It felt like, quote, ego death, whatever they say, it's like, that's what felt like was happening. And it set me free in so many ways after that, because I never was going to define myself again by the outcome. I was only going to define myself by the process. And once I made that decision, everything else became acceptable. I wasn't so much of a victim of the outcome because of what I was doing daily. And I was able to make my, heart not be vulnerable to outward actions, I guess, so. And then one day my buddy was like, when I was on the road in baseball, all we would do is music. We would just joke and freestyle and rap and poke fun at each other. And one of the guys that I played with, my roommate back in Greenville in Tennessee for the Astros minor leagues, he called me and he was like, hey bro, are you still doing like music, rap? Do you know anybody? He's like, I'm starting a record label. And I was wondering if you'd want to come out to LA and help me put on a show and help me, basically bring up these rappers. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I went out there and I helped them. And while I was out there, he's like, I know you got some rap. Like, let me hear it, So I rapped for him and everything. And he pulled me aside after the whole weekend was over. I was just running coffees, doing whatever they needed the whole week, just, being an assistant. And he pulled me off to the side and he's like, hey bro, I loved your music. Would you want to, like, I would like to manage you. And I was like, man, that is incredible, dude. I was like, yeah, for sure. And so we said, let's go out to the farm and try to put together a project. So we come out to the farm and we're working our butts off and making music. And it happened time-wise that the coaching job that I was doing, we needed an assistant coach. So my manager became the assistant coach with me. So then we teamed up as manager for music I was the manager on the baseball field and he was my assistant coach. And we took these kids all around the country. We played at LSU, we played out in Atlanta. I went from not knowing anything about what was going to happen to making music on the road with my manager next to me at all times and taking care of 15 kids one summer. So it was just everything. It was like it was like you put my whole life story in a blender and it was all occurring at one time. So it was just so cool to be on that journey and now to, eventually fade out of coaching and get back into solely music. But, as you've been out here, we work the farm in the morning and then music comes second. So it's just been so full circle to have all of that stuff go on to now it's, kind of after a while of, grinding and, you do start to see the path. The path does start to reveal itself. And, once you're able to go along that path confidently with your team, that's when things, my team being my wife, my team being my managers and help like that for music, you're able to just, kind of get everything focused back down to where you want to be. And that's just kind of how life goes, right? Life goes up and down like a roller coaster. And now it's like the older I get, the more I strive to just have it be a little tiny bump in the road as opposed to an emotional roller coaster. So I know that's a lot, but that's kind of, the gist of the last, I would say, 8 years of my life. So
I love how you put that. Like, all the ups and downs of life get thrown into this blender and eventually it all blends together into something that makes some sense, right? A lot of people that I chat with feel like they're just picking up little breadcrumbs of experience, and I mean, myself included, really like wondering how it's all going to add up. But then at some point, like you described, it all just clicks into place. And about relying on others or, having them rely on you, that's such a tricky thing. And it stood out to me, it really puts our egos to the test, right? Like, it's hard to ask for help and it's hard to trust someone sometimes with important things, especially when you are getting vulnerable and it's someone you care about deeply because you care about, their feelings about you. And I could totally picture it. You're driving, you're thinking about how to bring up this tough topic to Gabi. And I think it's natural to feel, a bit uneasy and let your ego hold you back sometimes. And so just kind of thinking through this, Zach, can you share a bit about a time when you had to ask Gabi for something big or, and they had to lean on you? How did you push past that initial hesitation and kind of build that trust you needed to make it work? What really helped you get to the point where asking for help or relying on someone felt like the right move? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of factors that went into that. For me, is you're exactly right. I think looking back, I wish I would have asked for help a lot more. I wish I would have been vulnerable enough to go, hey, even going back to minor league baseball, I wish I would have had the courage to present myself to my boss as opposed to blindly working and said, hey, what do you guys need me to work on so that I can get to this next step faster? And I think that is such a hard place to get to because you don't want to seem like you need help. Like just because you're not, if they could put you on the fast track, if you're just like you said, if you could put your ego aside a little bit and say, hey, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, even though I'm athletic and strong and feel like I'm working my butt off, maybe it's not in the right direction. So I think that had happened, a few times, 5 or 6 times, probably on a life scale. Like I said, just having my son and being like, dang, holy cow, and, so I think that when I was going home to ask my wife about that exact moment, it was more like, I know she's going to approve of it. Am I willing to do what it takes to make it happen? And once again, I didn't ask for any help even in golf. Who would have known what had happened if I just put it all on me and thought, if I can give lessons for $100 an hour, then everything will work out and it'll all be good. And, so, I think even that was a testimony of like, yeah, maybe you're good with your wife. Like maybe you don't have to put those guards down for your wife because you guys are, on the same page and have gone through so much already. But I wish I would have set a lot more feelers out. I wish I would have asked a lot more people to help me along the journey or collab more or help, on that end where I always just, my default for so long was just putting my head down and doing the work myself. And all of that is great if you know exactly what you're doing. So and I never necessarily could pinpoint exactly what I was doing, So I think the stuff that I learned from it was all of the relationships that I made on the golf course. My producer now that I go and take all of my music to is a golf head. And now I met him, playing golf on the golf course. And now we can have business meetings on the golf course. And then we meet other people. We've played so much golf with so many people. And you just go, wow, I would have never thought that, because I never thought I was even going to make music until 2 years ago. That when I met my producer as just a friend playing golf, that I would be in his studio a year and a half later, we're doing the stuff that means the most to me right now. So I think those are the things that life teaches you so much when you are in those shelled moments, because and I say shelled because it's hardened, right? Like you just put your head down and you don't really know what to do, but you're not going to make excuses because that doesn't help. So I think by being in that hardened shell phase, I also met some of the most important relationships in my life now, so it's such a double-edged sword, putting your head down and going to work, not looking, and also being vulnerable to go, well, it doesn't matter if I'm going the wrong way or not in the right direction. Doesn't, it's just spinning gears to spin gears is going to eventually be, you're going to burn out, So I think that was what was kind of the aha moment was, okay, I know this is going to be good with my wife, but, I wish I would have reached out and had more outlets to bounce ideas off of, to go how to get through pass instead of Zach's going to play golf. He's going to work his butt off. Once he passes the test, hopefully the company invests in him. That's just not what happened. It's nothing personal. Everybody at work loved me. It's not like they were just like, no, we don't see that in our future. I'm like, oh, okay, now what? So that's what's cool, and then that's kind of that conversation. What was, and Gabi also was able to go, yeah, but you did it. She's like, yeah, but you literally looked me in the face a year and a half ago and said, I'm going to go pro in golf. And you did what you said you were going to do, so that in that hardened phase, I still also proved to the most important person on my team that I'm at least going to do what I said I'm going to do. And so this weird way, I did accomplish a huge goal, but it doesn't mean that it was the path I was supposed to be on.
Yeah, that's some really great self-reflection right there. And I think it really helps you see things from, a broader point of view, like your whole team's view. It's not like, it's like you're doing your own show sometimes, but you also know that you have a whole support network backing you up. And I know a lot of people I talk to, a lot of people I know, myself, it's scary to ask for help, even just a simple question, because you don't want to seem weak or inexperienced or get rejected or get laughed at, whatever it is. And it gets messy when we let that fear of what others might think hold us back. And honestly, if you just reach out for help, it can actually strengthen relationships and show that you trust others. And, and I've also found that asking for help not only gets you the support you need, but also gives that other person a chance to, shine and share their knowledge. And it makes them feel like they're contributing and making a difference. And, it's just good all around. And, I know I love it when someone asks me for help. I feel valued and connected. So yeah, does that resonate at all too?
Well, and I think it's so nice now being in, I was never in the arts industry, now that I'm in the art industry, people are so much more willing to collaborate. Art is so at least in my experience, I know in your furniture flipping that it's got to be somewhat similar. I'm sure you have a nice community that you can share stuff with that doesn't put it down, that wants to see you grow, that loves to see you. So I think for me, that has been so refreshing from, I'm as competitive as they get. Don't get me wrong. I love competition, but I never understood what it actually meant to collaborate. I thought that collaborating was throwing an alley-oop and someone else throws it down and the team scores 2 points. It's like, no, it's like you said, both energies have something to bring to the table. And when those energies combine with each other and start firing ideas off of each other, and you understand that you're accepted in that space, there's just something about that organic growth that happens in that moment that I haven't experienced in sports, as opposed to now, I don't know, intellectual property, I guess you'd call, whatever ideas are that you bounce off of each other are just so much more rewarding on this end of the spectrum. That's all I can say,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like when I reach out to a fellow furniture flipper on Instagram and, I'm asking them like, what paint did you use? It's not just about getting the info. They'll share not only what paint they use, but also, how they applied it, what brush they used, tips and tricks they've picked up, and maybe even a bit about their dog and something funny that happened on that day. And I don't know, it's the human touch that builds real community. And it's amazing, how simple this is, but how powerful these interactions can really turn into meaningful connections and collaborations, especially in the art world where there are so many brilliant ideas and talented people to connect with. And speaking of art, I heard you got some music coming out soon. So exciting. Can you share a bit about the project and what you've been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. About a year, maybe 2 years ago now, just at 2 years, I had a buddy that hit me up and was like, hey, do you want to come jam? And, he's a heck of a guitar player. And I knew that he was writing songs and, and him and his brother, his name's Ethan Davis and his brother Heath Davis. And they just hit me up and they're like, do you want to make some songs? And I was like, yeah, that would be cool. I'm into music right now. Like I'm having a blast. Let's get together and write. And, we get together and write and all of a sudden we're like, oh man, this is better than average. We're like, this actually came out a lot better than we thought that it was going to be. And, once again, I'm like, after leaving the house with these guys, after I think we played music for, I don't know, like 10 hours and we didn't have anything written, nothing done. And we came out of there with 3 songs for ideas. And it was just like, looked in the rear view and I went, am I going to go tell my wife that I'm going to be a music guy now? So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Sure enough, I did. And, honestly, just those 2 guys in my life, now I have this team of people around me that is just so involved in every aspect of the musical, process, from writing to making the music, to promoting it, to dropping it, to talking to pitching to Spotify, to doing all this. And we are all so immersed in this right now. And it's so cool because they're real estate guys. They do, the biggest part of this whole thing was, how are we going to make a living and still do this? And I think if you want to be a career flipper, you need to, if you don't know exactly what you're flipping to, have the job offer on the table with everything, the bells and whistles that you like. You have to understand that, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It's like, we had to look at each other and go, okay, what are the next steps that we can take to becoming more professional at this? And eventually you go, oh my gosh, I need to just take care of this, my life, my bills, my son, his schedule, my wife's schedule, all of these things that every father, every, human has, okay, now I'll do whatever it takes to get that. That's where I feel like my mindset of just putting my head down does work well. That's where it's like, whatever we got to do to make this happen. Now I'm in it for, I think, just like you, right? Like I'm willing to work as hard as I can so that I can make this my career. Like I want to make this my career. And honestly, the day that I can stop doing all this, well, I'll never stop because I love helping my wife out on the farm. But the day that, you wake up and you go, I'm a full-time musician, is the one that we're all waiting for. and until then, it's like, it's still my career. You know what I mean? Just because it hasn't changed my life financially doesn't mean that I'm taking it any less serious. It's just, what am I willing to do in this lane so that I can focus on this lane now? And I think that's such a healthy place to be, because your brain needs that little bit of sacrifice also. It's not supposed to be this rise to the top. That's not how it works. There's valleys and peaks. Once again, it's like the roller coaster. And I think having to really put your head down and get your priorities, 1, locked in, 2, organized, 3, executed. I think that's what truly sets you free to be able to do that new career. And for me, that's just, when I met those 2 guys that were willing to do the same thing, I love being on a team, and it just went together like, gears in a clock.
Ooh, yeah, that resonates. I find that visualizing my day, like down to the tiniest details, like what am I having for breakfast, really helps me stay focused when I can picture myself living that life, living in those shoes and seeing what my day looks like. It's really motivating. And it's like, if I can clearly see where I want to be heading and how I'm going to do it, like I already kind of have it. Like I'm already living it, which sounds kind of wacky, but like I'm just way more willing to make the sacrifices to get there when I can picture it in my head. It's like having a clear roadmap. It makes, I don't know, it makes the whole journey kind of feel more doable, and it keeps me on track.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, where do you think that, for me, mine was so competitive. Mine was just driven off of, this guy over here might be working out, so I'm going to try to work out harder. Like, in you, where would you say that originates, that feeling?
Oh, you're flipping the script here. Usually I'm the one asking the questions. Okay, I mean, honestly, I am not competitive at all. I really shy away from competition. I think my drive comes from something deeper. I've seen a lot of people throughout my life really give up on their dreams, give up on themselves because they didn't believe they were worth it. Growing up, I had a lot of people around me that had the "you're not good enough" mentality, and I don't know, it stuck with me, and kind of became part of my core beliefs. So, it's been a long journey to work through these feelings, lots of therapy, lots of support, and realize that I actually am good enough. And sometimes I look back and think about all the things I sacrificed just to fit into what I thought I should be. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to remember, like, for example, I gave up on music. I used to play and sing because, I don't know, I didn't believe in myself. I was doing paid gigs in Philly, and I just walked away from something I loved because I didn't think I was good enough. And I made a promise to myself over, the past several years. I can't give up on myself again. I've seen what happens when you do. And it's painful to think about the talented people from my past who gave up on themselves and what they could have done, and I want to push forward, not just for me, but, kind of honor their legacy in a way. And it's about showing that you can keep going. You can find success. It's going to be hard sometimes, but you can keep doing it. And some days are definitely, I don't know, tougher than others. And these old insecurities, sneak back in, and I'm questioning everything. I'm sobbing on the couch. There's times when I think, am I really good enough today? And I'm sure it's annoying for people around me, but then I remind myself that I can't go back to that place of burnout and self-doubt again. I've learned from that. I've had jobs where I felt like I was selling my soul, and I'm determined to not go back to that either. And, what I'm doing now, like, this has to work. I'm fully committed to making it happen. I'm curious what it's all going to look like, and it's a journey, and I'm all in.
Well, that just resonates so much with me because, like I said, I mean, when I was 24 years old, in the best shape of my whole entire life, throwing the hardest, I felt amazing. And someone looked right at me and was just like, "You're not good enough. See you later. Go home." And it was just like, I wasn't, it was one of those things where it just came out of nowhere. And you're absolutely right. That fueled me for so long. That fueled me. That fueled my, I don't want to say fueled, it hardened my heart. You know what I mean? Like it hardened my heart and definitely took a toll on me mentally and put me in a place that, I've always told myself I was a very, very happy person, but if depression was going on, it was then, you know what I mean? And like probably went undiagnosed and what, but I was, and now everything is so much more geared toward how I'm going to feel about this in the future. Like the work that I'm putting in today, I know is going to make me feel it's not a trophy but a sense of accomplishment tomorrow. It's not going to manifest in this physical form of like, oh, here's your new Maserati. It's going to manifest in the form of you went to work every single day. Now this is why it's paying off the way it is, and it's consistent and it's real, and I can draw on those. It's not this stimulated fake feeling. It's like, no, now I can look and see where I've been, and now I know where I'm going, as opposed to, being inspired by the future as opposed to being fueled by my past, or my past failures. It's just so much more real and so much more day to day acceptable to me. Like my soul can accept the way that things are going now because of the steps that I simplified, took on new challenges, had to trial and error, but we're able to get to that path. Like we said, that path will eventually reveal itself. And I think that's so refreshing that you just kind of shared the same type of feeling, looking back at that person. I felt the same way. It's like, golly, look at that pathetic person over there. I feel sorry for them. I wish I could give them a hug. I wish I could give younger me a big old hug and be like, dude, we got this. Don't worry. So that was really cool to hear, and such a cool answer,
Well, I appreciate you asking. It's good stuff, and it's our story. And I don't know, for me, it just comes down to, things that I've learned, and there were sad times and there were happy times mixed in, and all the things from the past, and now to focus on the present and the future. And I'm really grateful that I had the motivation to keep going despite it all and learn from it. And I mean, how many people go through this or in it like right now, and maybe, I don't know, haven't learned it yet, or just it's really hard. And so I applaud both of us, for continuing to move forward and pave the path that is a little bit harder. Because like, I guess I kind of picture it, sometimes like there's one path, there's two in front of you. One path is super pretty, it's all the beautiful trees, it's well manicured, and the sidewalk that's already paved, and there's flowers and garden beds, and everything just looks so pretty, and it's already done for you. And then there's this other path. You look the other way, and it has, broken fences and all the weeds and rocks, and, you're going to have to go in there with your machete and clean it up. And that's the one that we're choosing, that's the one because we get to go in there and we get to grab that shovel and we get to clean it up and pave it and make it look however we want. And it's backbreaking work. It's sweaty, it's gross, but it's so rewarding. And a lot of the things that you've said throughout our talk, like, it makes me think of this, And actually, okay, so this another question for you, Zach, kind of along these lines, as we're paving this path. Some of the things that you mentioned earlier, especially, when you were coaching, how that feeling of making an impact on someone else's life impacted you. And I'm curious, are you still feeling that with music? Like, are you able to show this creative side and create in your own way, and putting things out there, and music making an impact on people? And do you feel that kind of came full circle? Is there something else there about that? I'm just curious if you're open to sharing a bit about it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and if you remember when you were out here, I played my first song for you, and it was rap. Like, I mean, it's rap, and I would say that was me trying again to just get into the industry any way possible, just by saying, I can rap, I can do whatever. Like, I'll do it. And when we came and reflected on that, and my manager actually came out here to write with me and just help me put this first EP out. And, I think when he saw the life that we were living out here, he was like, he's like, not really who you are. Like mentally, that might be who you are. You might be starving inside. You might be, he's like, but physically, you're just an awesome dad that is working his butt off to provide this cool farm lifestyle with you and your wife. Like, he's like, why don't you try country, And once he said that, like, those were all the things. Like, I was just feeding my ego again. It never goes away, right? Like, you're going to always have the same stuff come up, and the goal is to be more disciplined. More discipline doesn't mean that it doesn't come up. It means that you yield and make the decision that's better for your soul, So I think knowing when I thought about, maybe all those kids that I help coach probably don't want to hear me talk about all this degrading stuff and, be cooler than I am and maybe not be in the right situation with the right people at the wrong time. And to, have that be from someone outside of me who cared about me, knew me, but truly was like able to see the good in me, and to hear that from an outside source, it just totally confirmed. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I had no idea that we were going to transfer into the country lane. That was extremely foreign for me, just being a reggae hip hop guy, but once we were able to, put our heads down and do it, it's like that opportunity came. And now I'm so proud of the stuff that we're putting out. We talked a little bit about the outlaw in my story, and the outlaw character that we're creating in this first album is a young guy. He's young me. He's young me that's just gung ho, ready to go, and doing whatever. And hopefully, throughout his journey, these first songs that I'm writing about him become tales of whoa. Not to do it like this. A reflective type of album to start things, and then we get into, all right, let's see who this guy is. So I think that it was like the ultimate full circle little question that you asked right there, because it just truly feeds. I want to show, you never want to lose that fire that you have in your youth, and as we age every day, you're fighting to keep that flame, that hunger, that drive. And once again, it becomes less sexy every day to just totally honor that thing. No, I have to submit to the discipline that's required to keep this flame alive. I don't need this flame to burn 10 feet high for the next 20 minutes. I need to keep these embers going for the next 10 years, because something amazing can happen if we go about this the right way on the right path, and I'm always going to have to check myself, it's like I was an athlete. I do love me some me. I'm not going to lie. It's like, that's the game mode that was put in us. But at the same time, I love me some Zeke. I love me some Gabi. I love me some God. I love me some friends, and there's so many other things that are so much more important that you can still honor, but still go forward, with that daily discipline check, I think so.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Well, Zach, I just want to say a huge thank you for being so open and real today on the show. Your transparency is refreshing, and I know our listeners will really appreciate it. So I can't wait for everyone to hear your new song and connect with you. Where can they find you? How can they reach out?
So right now we have, 6 songs out on Spotify, on all streaming platforms, wherever you guys listen on. You can just type in Dando. It's Dando, Dando, with a period at the end. And we are hoping to get our EP out in September, but right now we're going to release a song called Lonely Crow, which I had a blast writing with Ethan Davis and Heath Davis, and my producer Taylor. They just killed it over at Han Audio. That's coming out on the 22nd. So we're really excited, and we're looking to start doing some shows here and, kind of getting it going. So I think this next month and a half is going to be real big for us. So anybody that wants to go stream it and give us a couple streams will be greatly appreciated. Instagram, just at Dando Music. I'm pretty sure we're at Dando Music on all platforms, but mostly Instagram. For some reason, the music world is just ran through Instagram. People don't even email each other in the music world. They just hit you up on Instagram. So anytime on there, we have some stuff on YouTube, but mostly just Instagram. Everybody just feel free to say hi. I mean, honestly, like, that's the coolest part about doing all this stuff is all the people that you can meet. So, if anybody feels the need to connect and wants to share their story with me, if I can help out in any way, definitely reach out to me on those, because this is a whole community. You know what I mean? Like I said, it feels so good when we're all in this together and rooting for each other and liking each other's stuff, and growing that way is always going to be so much more organic. So that's pretty dang cool. I'll tell you what, thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. This is so cool. You do what you do, and a lot of good comes from listening to a lot of people talk. Just one last little piece that really stuck with me. I got some. He's like, you'll never fail if you don't quit. Just keep going. And that's all I can say before we go is you're the only one. You get to decide when it's time to quit. You get to decide when it's time to be done. So just, whenever that goes, if anybody's out there listening, just know that you are the one that's in charge, not the world, not someone else. So,
well, thank you, Zach. It was so cool to have you on and talk about all of this. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for tuning in to this bonus episode of The Career Flipper. Be sure to connect with Zach using the links in the show notes and check out his song that comes out on Spotify August 22nd, 2024. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor and share it with a friend who could use a little boost of inspiration on their career journey. Rate and review the show. It just helps a ton. And hitting that subscribe button means you'll get more awesome flippin' stories like Zach's every week. Your support helps me connect with more career flippers and future career flippers to be, spreading all the good vibes and motivation we need on this journey. And if you're looking for a career flipping speaker for your event, want to sponsor the podcast, or just want to drop a line, say hi, and share your story, pop over to thecareerflipper.com. I'd love to hear from you. Keep on your path, my friend. What's the best that could happen? Talk to you later this week.